or of Africa since the war between the Israel and the US against Iran took place. And
with a problem on the continent, they don't have to go anywhere. It's at home, and I think we need to profit from that.
And Iran, Dangote is able to supply Africans. He has come actually to the rescue of Africa.
So the World Bank is unhappy with Dangote Refinery and is asking Dangote to reset its price to match with the world price. These people, what do they want from Africa? So people are reacting, Africans are reacting to this particular call from the World Bank, and Africans are reacting. I have a couple of videos to show you. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Let's go into the videos, watch, come back and talk.
In the last couple of days, we've been loading to mostly African countries, which we are not doing before. Last month alone on PMS gasoline, we have actually exported almost 17 or so cargoes. What I can do is to assure Nigerians, first of all, here, and most of West Africa and Central Africa, East Africa, we have the capacity to supply them, and then we also have capacity to do polypropylene, which is in a very, very high demand and then very scarce because of what is happening in the Middle East.
Really impressed. I mean, the whole point of the visit is really to look at mitigating the crisis and the global impacts of what is happening in the Middle East. And fertilizer, food security is a big part of that. Having a look at the refinery today, the byproducts, it's very impressive. It has the capacity, the scale to deal with the problem on the continent. They don't have to go anywhere. It's at home. And I think we need to profit from that. I think the UN's job here is to amplify and to put visibility on the possibilities of mitigating a food security crisis. And this is one of them. I hope that when we go back, that we can continue to talk to the partners that will partner, the countries that should partner with the Dangote industries.
Breaking news. The World Bank is asking Nigeria to reset its petrol prices because Dangote is dominating the market. They cannot have it when an African is actually doing well. So Dangote has come to the rescue of Africans or of Africa since the war between the Israel and the US against Iran took place and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Dangote has actually, he's came in at the right time and he has been there for Africans, and now because he's dominating the market in Africa, the World Bank is asking Nigeria to intervene and stop him from benefiting.
So the World Bank wants the world to have a global reset on the oil prices because of everything that's going on right now with the Strait of Hormuz and whatnot. A lot of Africans are winning. Dangote Refinery is winning and the Nigerian government is winning. And because of that, World Bank has come out and suddenly World Bank cares about consumers. World Bank is saying that right now, the way the pricing is going, Nigerian consumers are hurting. It has nothing to do with Nigerian consumers. It just has to do with the fact that for the first time now, Nigeria is not importing oil. Nigeria has its own oil. Nigeria is selling its own oil, and Nigeria's oil, they claim, is more expensive. Okay, so what? We get the money for that shit. The government gets the money for that shit. Unfortunately, that money is going directly to Tinubu, Wike, and the rest of them. But in a real world, that money would be going to the people. But anyways, the World Bank is upset that Africa is winning, and the World Bank is like, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to reset the price of oil. We need to do this shit ASAP.
Breaking news. We have news that the World Bank is asking Dangote to reset its fuel prices on the heels of the outbreak of the war between the US, Israel, and Iran. Dangote is able to supply Africans. He has come actually to the rescue of Africa by being able to supply petrol at a lower cost. So the World Bank is not happy with this. Can you imagine that the World Bank is not happy with this, that Dangote is able to, bridge that gap, that lull that's been created between Africa, the rest of the world actually, with the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. that's largely responsible for transporting petrol in large tankers and sending to different countries. But Dangote has done something instructive, and he has pulled the attention of the World Bank. He is the Africa's richest man from Nigeria, and he's making this possible by providing fuel for Nigeria, providing fuel for Africa, and the prices I can confirm to you in Nigeria are already dropping. As of 2 days ago, it was about 1,400 naira per liter, and it has dropped by yesterday to about 1,200 naira per liter.
So the World Bank is angry with Dangote right now, and they are asking Nigeria to reset its oil prices. This is really crazy. So the report will come out that ever since the war began, between the US and Iran started, and where the whole issue of the oil crisis came out, they discovered that Africa is nowhere affected with this oil crisis. It was only these other continents which were affected. Dangote was covering the whole Africa, and the oil prices were not changed. They still remained, and right now they are saying that Dangote is taking over the oil market in the continent of Africa, and now they are asking Nigeria to reset its oil prices so that the foreign oils also can find their markets in Africa. This is really crazy right now. These people, they do not want an African man to be on top of everything. Whoa, man, this is so crazy, my people.
As if the West left Africa alone just for 2 minutes, we would be in a better position. But they can't afford to do that because they depend on us. So what's happening now is that the World Bank and IMF are unhappy with Dangote. So since the Middle Eastern war, a lot of countries in Africa turned to Dangote for oil because there's a shortage. And Mr. Dangote said, don't worry, my fellow Africans, I'm here for you. And he's now since shipped out over 20 gasoline cargoes across Africa. And that has also increased fertilizer exports within Africa and not the West. Now, they are saying that their argument is that the high fuel costs will result in poverty, economic instability, etc., which is true. But that is not in the control or in the hands of Dangote. It's what's happening across the globe. They have been writing in Reuters every day for the past 2 weeks about how they are demanding that the Nigerian president sets oil prices for Nigeria so that it's not high because of poverty, blah, 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 blah. But their real problem here is that they are seeing intra-African trade increases. That's where the problem is, because it disrupts macroeconomic control, especially in developing nations and economies. Now, that's where their problem is. That's where the real problem is. They do not want to see that. It works against them and not in their favor when Africans find solutions within each other, because now they're going to be left out. And we all know that they benefit from Africans being in a bad position and depending on them. That's the story. It's not about the puppets in Tontoni. They are still partners with the people that perpetuated the Middle Eastern war. And now they want to come to Africa when a black man is making a bag because of the problems that they have created. Now it's a problem. Now the oil, they must set their oil prices to a certain level. Now they're worried about all of that. We have not forgotten what Shell did in Nigeria. By the way, leave Dangote alone, leave Africa alone. This is a solution that we have now, and now we know that we can trade amongst each other, and that works best for Africans. In fact, that's how Africa should be moving. That's how we should be moving. And also, if you need to have a word with anybody, ring up Matrampana and Benjamin Setenyao. They are the real global problem, not Dangote.
The World Bank has said to the Nigerian government to review its import license, because in January 2026, the Nigerian government suspended the import license issued to marketers on the importation of refined petroleum products into the Nigerian market in order to boost local refinery. Since January this year, most of the products used in Nigeria have been refined from the Dangote Refinery, which is the single largest refinery in the world. But you know what? The World Bank is not happy. The World Bank is not saying that Dangote is not dominating the Nigerian market and also the African market in terms of supply of petroleum and diesel to the Nigerian market and the continent as a whole. Dangote is supplying close to 90% of the refined product in Nigeria and supplying to West Africa countries, Central African countries, and East African countries. There is an ongoing negotiation from the South African government, from Dangote, to supply them product for the next 12 months. You see, this is a good thing for Africa, where there seems to be an increase in internal trade within African countries. But you know what? Suddenly the World Bank is saying that this is not good for consumers. The World Bank is now worried about Nigerian consumers. The World Bank is now saying, in terms of the CPI, which means the Consumer Price Index, that transportation constitutes 10% to the CPI in Nigeria. So the World Bank is now suddenly worried about the Nigerian citizens. When did the World Bank has been worried about Nigerian citizens or Nigerian consumers or African consumers as a whole? It tells you about the levels of hypocrisy of this international organization. Because an African refinery is not taking a huge market share within the African continent, suddenly you are not bothered about African consumers. You know, we have seen, since the coming up of the Dangote refinery, we have seen the closure of refineries in Europe. I think 2 or 3 refineries in the United Kingdom has shut down as a result of the Dangote refinery because they could not compete. We are seeing refineries in Asia also having problem. We are seeing refinery in South America also having issues as a result of loss of market share. So the World Bank is now telling the Nigerian government to review its prices and review the import license that was banned in 2026 January in order to ensure competition, that they do not want Dangote to become a monopoly. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, this is a policy that the World Bank have used to destroy African countries. So the World Bank is a Western corporation that wants to ensure Western corporations are put at the forefront of global economy. But in this situation, the Nigerian state and the Nigerian government is winning. This is what I've always campaigned. I've always said this in the past. You know, when we were talking about how the Nigerian government needs to support Dangote, people were saying, oh, Dangote is a monopoly. And you know, people call Dangote monopoly because it's easy for them to say it, it's easy for you to trend and deceive the people. Dangote is not a monopoly. Dangote is an oligopolist. You know, refineries are result in huge barrier in terms of entry due to its capital intensive. The Nigerian government must not yield to the World Bank. The Nigerian government must continue to support local refinery and continue to ensure that the total ban on the importation of petroleum products into Nigeria is sustained. The government must be thinking of building more refineries. NNPC need to build its own refinery, not just Dangote. Just like the Boa refinery will be coming up upstream in 2027. So Nigeria should become the petrochemical hub of the continent, because Nigeria has the market, has the resources, and have the technical know-how to dominate this sector. If the government could be visionary and pursue these policies. So the Nigerian government should not listen to the World Bank. The World Bank is just there to protect the interests of Western corporations. They are seeing they are losing market share. The Iraq war has not impacted on Nigeria. Imagining that Nigeria does not have the Dangote refinery, what would be of the Nigerian nation today? Maybe petrol will be selling for over 2,000 naira a liter, because Nigeria will need to import this product. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. So the World Bank is talking absolutely jargons. You know, this situation is because the World Bank is seeing that Western corporations and Western refineries are losing shares in the African market, while Dangote refinery and Nigeria is winning. When Dangote wins, the Nigerian government wins, because Dangote pays taxes to the Nigerian government. So people should stop seeing this as a refinery owned by an individual. Dangote Refinery is a Nigerian company, just like Shell, just like ExxonMobil is a company to the United States. BPs are British corporations. Dangote Refinery is a Nigerian corporation that must be supported and sustained.
Europe is turning to Dangote for their oil. Now, Dangote found it really difficult to sell their oil to European countries and other countries because they said that there were impurities. But now, Europeans have been forced to turn to Dangote because it has become impossible to get access with the current war between US and Israel versus Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And it seems like they are now turning to Africa. What's interesting is that Europe has always made it very difficult for Africans to trade with Europe. But it seems like everything is shifting and nothing can change the global order that is basically in the process of being reordered.
So 20% of the world's LNG is now gone, and that is the fuel for power plants across Europe and Asia and India. This affects electricity, heating, even gasoline prices. A large portion of this gas is going to take 3 to 5 years to come back online, as per Qatar this morning. That means this coming winter, places like France, Italy, and the UK likely to be rationing electricity. Also, South Korea. And most all of the countries in Europe and Asia, if they can get electricity, are likely to be paying 3 to 4 times more for it. This is being downplayed like COVID. I always wanted to downplay it. I didn't want to cause panic. The words of Donald Trump. That's happening right now. In addition, that strike completely wipes away any release of ours from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Because when that much natural gas comes offline, a lot of that is replaced in power plants as they switch to oil. So oil demand just rose drastically. This is not good, folks. This is not good.
The third or second scramble for Africa is about to start. This was it was supposed to be slow. This bomb that Iran dropped on Qatari LNG plants, it just intensified the scramble for Africa. I don't know what to say or how to say it, but there's nothing Nigerians, everything I've been saying about panic, Africa, this bomb just made it 5 times worse, just accelerated it. There's the scramble for Africa now is life or death for them now.
So the question that I have is, what do these people want from us as Africans? Have they not taken enough? Have they not done enough? Dangote is basically supplying the whole of West Africa and also Central Africa and all that. And we clearly see that it is really, really helping, because with this particular war that is going on, the Iran-Israel-US war is something that could have brought a huge burden onto Africans, because if we didn't have Dangote, this refinery, I'm telling you, price of fuel would have just skyrocketed anyhow, because you know, when there is not much fuel coming into the system, definitely the price is going to do what is it's definitely going to increase. But it seems like they are not seeing that. They are not seeing that happen to Africans, especially. Basically, they are making it seem as if they care about the African people and they want to help, or they are saying this to help the African people. But we all know these organizations, everything they do, it's for their own selfish benefits. It's for their own selfish benefits. So we understand the game, and they've been doing this since. I don't know what Dangote is going to do. This is a call that came from them. So let's see what actually happens with Dangote and what Dangote is going to do. But currently, Dangote is basically supplying West Africa and Central Africa and some other African countries, and that is what is making the fuel price not go up like the way it's supposed to be, especially in Africa. Thank you so much for watching.